And welcome everyone to the 30th episode of Hip Hop Orchestra Presents with someone who I've admired for so long, who I've regarded as a brother to me. He's taught me so much in my life. And this is Rob Littlejohn, who's an editor at the BBC, across One Extra and BBC Asia. How are you doing, sir? You okay?
Georgio, good to see you, sir. And
You
thank
too.
you. Firstly, this is why you're going to go a long way, because you're the only person I know sort of willing to do a podcast on a Sunday morning. So on a Sunday, thank you for that. And yeah, good to see you.
You too, brother. I can't thank you enough for doing it on a Sunday as well. It's been a long time since I've probably seen it, but I thought it'd be a brilliant chance to catch up and showcase people and showcase to everyone how we met and how much you've helped me along the way over these years. So thank you again for doing this with me.
No, huge amount of respect for you, Georgio. And yeah, it's part of it.
You too, brother. Thank you. But you know what? Let's get things started and talk about how we actually met 8 years ago already, back in 2012 at the Jumpoff Battles.
8 years.
It's 8 years already. How mad is that?
That's crazy. So shall I let people know sort of where we met? And
Yeah.
it is a big part of your journey, actually, in terms of meeting contacts and stuff. So Monday nights in London at the Scala.
It was, yeah.
For the Jumpoff, and a legendary, iconic night, I would say, because there's only a few club nights that really own a day of the week. And if you're out in London on a Monday, there was only one place you were going, and that was the Jumpoff. And I've got to give a massive big up to Harry, our obviously Manny Norte and Charlie Sloth on the decks that hosted it. And so I was privileged to be a judge there. And what it is a talent night, but I would describe it as a hip-hop ghetto version of Britain's Got Talent, with sort of Nick Cannon's Wildin' Out. But to be fair, even Nick Cannon's Wildin' Out is quite polished for TV. Jumpoff was raw, and it was a hard crowd, but a beautiful crowd. And it was a talent competition for 4 disciplines. So it was the dance competition, which I thought was one of my favorites, all the breakers and stuff. The legendary MC battle, where a lot of people's feelings got hurt on the night. Then we had the producer battle, which I thought was the most difficult, and that was the one that obviously we met and you were part of, which we can talk about.
Yeah.
And the now infamous working booty shake competition that they would do at the end, which I know nothing about. I would leave early before then. So,
Me too, so don't worry.
But yeah, so I was judging on a couple of nights, and one of those evenings you were part of the producer battle. And I suppose, do you want to let people know kind of the format of it? Because it was quite an intense 5 minutes or 2 minutes for you, actually.
Yeah, so to even get to that stage, we had the kind of like the prelims, didn't we? Like kind of like the audition stage, where it was yourself and a couple of other judges were there to obviously judge the talent. And for the audition stage, it was literally create a beat in 2 minutes using sounds that, or at that time actually was using any sound you wanted on Logic, I think it was at the time. So literally had the audience say yourself, the other participants as well, dancers, MCs, producers, all there watching you on the spot. Charlie Sloth was hosting as well, and the audition literally was to create a beat on the spot in 2 minutes, and then yourself and the other judges, I think the audience and as well were judging kind of their favourites on the night, weren't they?
Yeah.
And that was, I remember you picked mine as your favourite, didn't you? I think, if I remember.
But,
yeah. Which I can't think of.
I can only imagine how difficult that was, because on the night, you've been given a specific set of parts, certain snares and certain bits of instruments. And for anyone, even in their own home, to put that together in a few minutes' time and actually create a beat and let it grow and breathe, and people think, you see people nodding their head, think, okay, it's gonna go, and then you add a little extra element to it. And no, I can see straight away that you obviously technically and all from a music background, because I thought you were thinking quite outside the box in the way you put it together, and that's the reason why at the time I would put you through. But the pressure that you must have had, because you're doing that, but then literally you kind of got that gladiator style audience down at you. And it's a Monday night. Sometimes it's a rainy Monday night, so people were there like, okay.
Yeah.
And it's not easy, and you're trying to make eye contact with them as well. And I thought you did a phenomenal job.
Thank you.
The final but then someone else won the final? I can't remember now.
Yeah, so it was me against Jay Weathers at the time on the live
Yeah.
stage. Yeah, that's it. Yeah, who's, for those that don't know, he's worked with people like Wiley and Ed Sheeran and so forth.
Yeah, great producer.
Yeah, brilliant producer. And also after the audition stage with you and everyone else there, I think about 2 weeks later, I got the email from the Jumpoff crew saying, "Well done, you made it through. Excellent. This is your date for in a few weeks' time. Come down to Scala." And when we got to the main stage itself, like you said, we had 5 minutes only. But that time it was slightly different because, yeah, it was slightly longer. Still 5 minutes, but instead of using sounds that were just like using any sounds you wanted, we had to create sounds that they provided for you. And I remember that as part of the producing package, you had to use a sample of theirs that they provided for you. And I remember I got too excited. So when I was walking up to the stage, I literally just pressed the keyboard straight away. And Rap 6 was like, "No, don't stop, wait. Just wait a minute, man. Wait, relax." So that was, like you said, there's like that kind of gladiator stage of everyone watching you. And like you said about the audience, the Jumpoff crew, the Jumpoff audience, as much as I love them, they will let you know if you're doing brilliant or you're bombing it really hard. And
oh yeah, it's a definition of honest feedback. Yeah, you're gonna get. I mean, to be honest, I've never actually asked you this question: why you decided to put yourself in that situation and be part of the Jumpoff?
You know what it was? Because obviously I was producing a lot at that time, and I wanted to take my production career further. And I knew, obviously, I knew a lot about the Jumpoff. When I saw they were advertising at the time on Twitter saying that we were looking for dance crews, producers, MCs, and so forth, I look, this is actually a perfect opportunity for me to take my career further and work out of my comfort zone. And obviously I looked into it, and I saw what outcomes other producers had from America, because I know that obviously they came from America over to here. And I knew that some of the producers that did it in America, they went on to work with people like Jennifer Hudson, to these huge artists. And I thought, if I could do something with the Jumpoff here and hopefully take my career further, then why not? So I applied for it, did the auditions, it went really well, and then did the main show itself. And thank God I did, because obviously I would never have met you. So,
well, no, you had to do it, and I commend you. And I mean, I don't remember you being that nervous. I mean, were you nervous? Was it ever in your head that, oh my God, this is going to be everyone booing, like, ever, like you didn't see the hand.
You know what? It's kind of weird because I get more nervous before the actual main performance itself. And obviously I knew that I didn't know the sounds were, but in my mind beforehand, before the main event itself, and even when I was waiting there on the sort of the rafters of the show itself at Scala, I was just literally just trying to relax myself and think of ideas on the spot, thinking, okay, I know I'm good at melodies and piano. Hopefully I can use that in my production. If not, let's try this way maybe. And being a classically trained musician, I'm used to performing live in front of audiences and, doing exams in front of obviously examiners. So that pressure of people watching you, I kind of used to that already over the years. Yeah. So I kind of brought that kind of mindset into the production side. And don't get me wrong, it's still bloody difficult. Obviously, don't get me wrong, but I thought, you know what? I kind of brought that mindset to it. I literally just zoned out, focused on the engineer next to me and the sounds that I had. Thinking, look, focus it all out, zone into my sound. Did what I did, and I thought I did really well in the night. Obviously, I didn't get through to it, but I thought I did pretty well considering I only had 5 minutes on stage and I made a little bit out of it.
Crowd appreciated you, and you did really well. And I mean, as judges, we had that pressure as well, because like you said, you had that not conflict, but that balance between us trying to spot talent and get them through to the next round, who we think could progress. But obviously, you had the crowd influence that wanted to be entertained.
Yeah.
And some of those things weren't necessarily aligned, because I could see a more skilled rapper that if I was A&R, I would sign them or invest in them. But sometimes you'd have a less skilled rapper that just suddenly says something about their mom, and everyone. And at that point, in your heart, you want to go with option A, but the crowd want to go with option B.
Yeah,
so
of course.
It was all love, but sometimes if I went option A, we'd get the boos, and again, it was all fun. There was one moment I remember vividly where, I don't know if it was the night that you were there, but I was giving feedback to a dance crew, and when you're giving feedback, the whole room goes quiet because they're listening
Yeah.
to it. So I'm already like a bit conscious. And the way the Scala is designed, you can see most of the crowd, but you have this balcony around sort of the rafters where it's just dark and all you can see is shadows. And I think where kind of made the majority of the music industry and sort of the celebs and the cool cats were there. And so I'm talking mid-sentence. I don't know if I can swear on this podcast, but
if you want, it's fine.
bellows from the back of the rafters. Oh, I hear, fuck off! Like, oh, no battery. While I was talking, and it kind of threw me for the evening, to be honest. I mean, the way they timed it was so funny. But yeah, so we would get a lot of sticks sometimes too. But again, it was a beautiful crowd.
It really was. I wanted to ask you actually what it was like for you as a judge, because obviously we've got our own kind of pressures, me that to perform you as a judge. Like, how hard was it for you to actually be honest but give good feedback at the same time? What kind of feeling did you have?
To be honest, the feedback wasn't too difficult because I think being honest is the best approach. And I'm not an expert in all of those disciplines, you know, in terms of, what happened was I was there sort of representing, I suppose, wider music and radio and just emceeing and everything else. Next to me, there was obviously a professional dance choreographer as well. And so amongst the three panelists, hopefully we had those three disciplines covered. So in terms of giving feedback, it was a natural process because we're there to help, you know, people like yourself or whoever's, you know, taking the time to take part. The pressure personally I found was everyone knows me. I'm a behind the scenes guy. Yeah. I don't like mics and spotlights. Or I'd rather catch up with you one-on-one kind of thing. So that for me was a challenge. But again, I enjoyed it, man. And yeah, such a good family. So yeah, Harry, Aaron, Jumpoff.
Big shout out to them. Much love to them. They've done a lot for me as well, and big shout out to both of them. But kind of like sticking in the same area of judging. Have you judged anything else before, like before or after since then?
After, probably not. No, absolutely. I mean, we do stuff internally historically at One Extra, and even with Asian Network, we're always trying to sort of showcase talent. Events or ways of finding new talent, and that's part of the job, is whether we're finding new broadcasting talent, new presenters, new MCs, new singers, you know, all the way from early days One Extra, I know Target's homegrown show where we would travel in a van across the country, and we would literally have like a big bin box that we would put next to our broadcast where anybody, even if they didn't have time to talk to us, they could put their demo in. These are the days of CD demos, you know. My job would then be to take that home and listen to all of that content, stuff like that. So the search for new talent never stops, and it never should stop, you know, across all of them. So
definitely.
New music casters, new presenters, new producers. That's what we're here for.
Definitely. Because for someone with so much experience, and obviously he's done a lot of judging as well, I know obviously with the music it does change every now and then in terms of the sound itself. 1 minute it could be like now for instance, it's got that sort of 80s sound, doesn't it? To a few other bits like might be Afro beats to this and that. In terms of with someone as much experience as you, what kind of things do you look for in terms of artistry? Do you look for the image or talent itself, or like a whole package of different things? What kind of things do you look for in an artist or producer?
I think when it comes to music, I've always seen it as kind of two approaches to music. You can and you should, you know, always research the genre or the world that you're in and acknowledge and kind of, option one is to acknowledge and celebrate what's gone before you, but then you be yourself to push that envelope forward, whether it be creating a new sound or your take on it. The option two is the more sort of rinse and repeat format, which is kind of, and I think sometimes I look at music and occasionally it's like an 80-20. There's a 20% really unique artists pushing things forward. There's 80% where, okay, it's good, but I've kind of heard that repackaged before, you know. And so when it goes through the cycles, like you said, 80s back and popular, there's some that will just sort of lazily sample an old 80s record and just sing on top of it.
Yeah.
But there's other 80s feel, you know, if you look at someone like Ella May, you know, R&B, she oozes 90s.
She does.
Her records are fresh. They're fresh production. You know, and so it's someone who studied and appreciates what's gone on before her, but it's almost like she said, look, I've seen what you've done. give me the torch, I've got it from here kind of thing. And I think that's where music progresses and travels forward. So that's what excites me the most.
Because talk about LMA, actually, I know you, before the podcast, you mentioned about this era being like kind of a golden era of R&B, especially in the female industry. And I want to get to that in a bit, actually, because people like LMA and like people like Sinead Harnett as well are people that I think are really bringing that kind of like I said, that 90s feel back and that proper music that we all, which especially for me, I kind of missed. But what kind of advice would you give for kind of up and coming artists or producers? Would you say create your own sound or do what's current at the moment and carry on working non-stop? What kind of advice would you give to up and coming artists and producers?
If you're a singer, vocalist, or an MC, I think again, it's always good to really study your craft and know what's gone before you, because that's you can only move it forward unless you know what's been done in a sense. I think for an artist, I think the live performance element is really important these days. I know it can be quite a barrier for people initially, but I think it helps in their confidence in performing to people. I think the live performance is such a part of an artist's repertoire now, and also financially, for financial stability. You know, you talk to many artists, they get their money from gigs, and I think if you want to monetize it and turn it from a hobby and a passion to a future career, then the live performance side is a big part of. If you're a producer, again, I mean, I'd say it's collaborating with people and take advantage. I mean, if you're like a bedroom producer and you're just starting out, for example, take advantage of the YouTube channels and all of the tutorials. I mean, there's stuff out there now where, you know, you can get Logic, beginners, intermediate, advanced. These are courses that back in the day you'd pay hundreds and hundreds of pounds for. And obviously you can still go to those classes and study them at uni or whatever, or workshops, but you can get free tuitions, you know, and more than that, you know, if you then progress to think, okay, I can make beats, but I want to learn the recording process of an artist, you know, type it in. I mean, you can get from the most legendary Timbaland, like you can actually, it's almost like you're the intern in the studio. Back in the day, an intern would be there just leaning against the wall, watching and observing. Yeah. You can do that in the house for free and pick up all those little nuggets, you know. So I think I'd suggest that as a producer. I think for everyone, whatever discipline, also try and surround yourself where you can. I know it's not easy at first, but try and surround yourself with people who are more experienced than you and are either sort of not succeeding, but somebody who you may consider further down the line than you, because that's how you get better, by surrounding yourself by people with more experience. And it can be quite humbling at first, but that's how you progress, you know. And don't be afraid to ask for help as well. You know, if you can make contacts, you know, going back to our story, 1 in 5, even more than that, will always help you, you know. And if you can get a mentor in that field to get feedback from. I think feedback's really important, and I've always said that in any discipline. You know, I see people on radio, community radio stations, talented, and you hear their show 5 years ago, you know, then you hear it now, and some have progressed and some, it still sounds the same. And the difference between that is the people that progressed got that feedback either from people who could give them that experience versus maybe they're just their mates and their friends, which they'll say, oh yeah, good show, you know, with loads of interaction. But that won't really break down where and the elements where you can improve. And I think getting that feedback from people who understand that world is really important. And the biggest thing I say to everybody, regardless of field, is just enjoy your craft as well. And wherever, you know, radio presenter, guitarist, rapper, singer, it's going to be, if you're trying to make it, you know, as a career, it will be a rocky journey at times. It'll be a stressful journey at times. You know, behind the scenes of the Hip Hop Orchestra review, you know, all the stuff that people see and the wonderful content, but you and I are talking about studio bookings and availability and budgets, and there's a boring side to our worlds. But the thing that keeps you going, I'm sure, is because you love what you do.
I do, big time.
Those are the things that will wake you up in the morning and say, you know what, it's going to be a busy day today, but I know what I'm in this for. And I think that is always your anchor. And I think when you
Definitely.
get busy, or you hit hurdles, or you hit brick walls, or someone closes the door, in order for you to have that resilience, it's always reminding yourself why you're in it. And I think just having that passion for your craft is the key. And be proud of what you're doing. The biggest phrase that I really dislike, that is when I hear, "Oh, I'm trying to get into the industry or make it," so to speak. And you could be a guitarist putting their first YouTube cover version on YouTube tonight. At that point, I'd say, welcome. You are now part of the industry. There's days of sort of just waiting for a major label or a major radio station to open a door for you. Obviously, those things can be exciting, but actually, we're all creators. This has been like this now for 15 years. Probably going back to Soulja Boy when he hit a million posting his YouTube stuff, and the template. You can do it, and you can do it off your own steam, off your own back. So be proud. You're not just a person that does cover versions. You do cover versions, and be proud of what you're doing and enjoy that journey. Because when in 15 years' time, when you're world famous, you'll look back and you think, oh my God, I had such a good time doing that. It's really important to enjoy the journey as well. This is all stepping stones. And if you're always just completely focusing on the next thing and sort of stress, I know people want to obviously make careers and monetize it at times, which is, is important, but you got to enjoy that journey as well,
100%. I couldn't agree more. Everything you said there is literally bang on with it, and I can't agree more. And that's why I got such a huge love for you, because for someone who is in the industry and doing such fantastic work, you've always taken the time to give me advice or taking the time to see me. And now on a Sunday, like doing a podcast with me. So I can't thank you enough for doing that. Thank you.
Your family, man.
You're family to me.
The Hip Hop Orchestra was on its own trajectory. I was just on the sidelines.
Yeah.
So going back to our timeline, so Jumpoff, in addition to being a fantastic night, was also a definite hub for the music industry as well to meet. And I'm sure if you ask, over 100 people, like where and when they met connections, I think Jumpoff was pivotal in that. So we met there, and then obviously we followed up probably about a year's worth of kind of just going back and forth. And I remember I was excited about what you were doing because you were so busy and you were scoring all of the hip hop beats and stuff in terms of turning it into sheet music.
Yeah.
I found that so inspiring because obviously I know that happens, but it actually just to see it sort of convert, I just found it so interesting, and I could see the passion that you had. And so maybe I'll let you talk about sort of where we went from there.
Yeah, so I remember a few years after Jumpoff, obviously we did the Made of L sessions at BBC One Extra, which I was still to this day one of my favorite ever projects that we worked on, because I remember it's such a funny thing. I mentioned it in a previous episode where at that time me and the orchestra actually broke up and we weren't going forward anymore because, like you said, like things weren't really moving forward anymore. There was too many closed doors. People were leaving the orchestra, so I just cancelled the whole thing. Literally, but I think I kept my social medias open just in case, because I had fantastic contacts on it like yourself, and I left it open just in case something came up. And literally a week later, I think it was someone from One Extra, another contact there, just at the blue email me saying, "We love your stuff. Can you come and perform at One Extra?" I was like, yeah, definitely. So straight away, emailed my guys, so we're back together again. Can we do these sessions? And from there, did the session. And when we got back together, a week later, 2 weeks later, we had the session booked in at Maidaville Studios. And the week before the sessions, I got the set list of what tracks they wanted to perform live. And so that week after work, I would just score all the tracks up for my guys to play. And then the following Monday, we performed all of them live for people to One Extra. And that, talk about pressure though, like I love scoring the music out. I love composing stuff. And so the pressure wasn't quite there. But I feel that I work better under pressure at the same time, if that makes sense. Because if someone gives me, say, a week or two to do a project, I'll work my arse off to do it, to make sure it's perfect. And then from there, I remember we spoke after about doing another project, didn't we, afterwards, which unfortunately fell through in the end. But is this something you want to we could discuss, or should we leave it for another time? Do you think?
I think you jumped ahead from the timeline from Jumpoff to Maida Vale, because that was probably about a year, and you were so patient because obviously you had the orchestra, but it's working out sort of like any radio stations, working out where the best show is and when the right. And I kept sort of promising that to you, and things just had to align themselves, And so no, I was so excited when managed to get you down Maida Vale, and that was with Sian Anderson, wasn't it?
That's it. That's the one.
And that's an iconic venue, from the likes of Jimi Hendrix, Beatles, like everyone's been in there, and so to see you then performing there was, an absolute dream. So no, we accomplished that. Then there's always other projects that we try to put in the pipeline, and it's the same, but internally at One Extra Radio 1 and Asian Network, we have probably 101 ideas, and some can come to fruition, and sometimes it's about timing,
of course, because
parts in the calendar, like in summertime, it's a carnival focus, and and it's just trying to find those slots. So second, but the main one, is getting at Maida Vale, which was special.
Thank you. I obviously I can't thank you enough for that, because, like I said, to me, it's still one of the highlights of my life. To put, like you said, like Jimi Hendrix and all these major artists have been there, and for us to perform there as well, we're thinking, wow, this is incredible. I remember I got there an hour early just to walk around the studios to like take it all in, because with me, I like to make the most of every experience. It might not always happen that time because I'm always so busy, like making sure that everyone's okay and in place and they're prepared to do their work. But I literally got there an hour and a half early, and I said, look, can I walk around the studios and take it all in? Again, that's fine, do it. So I took it all in, walked around thinking, Michael Jackson's been here, Jimi Hendrix has been here, Madonna's been here, Eminem's been here, thinking, oh my God, this is...
And the video that you used was the one we had Emin and Jay-Z.
Oh my God, I couldn't believe that. Thinking I'm sharing the same room as these two legends of the game. It's just unreal. So honestly,
it's a great place. And what's special about Maida Vale is the engineers and the producers. I've got to shout out Andy Rogers, actually, because what I've experienced over the years there is you could have 30 albums and 40 years in the game, or you could just be a new up-and-coming MC going there for the first time or whatever, and just the way they work with yourselves and the musicians, in exactly the same way, to get that sound right and the rehearsals and everything else. So no, it's a very special place.
It really is. Thank you. Obviously, I can't thank you enough for everything that you've done for us, so thank you. Talk about sort of working under pressure there. You said like with working with timelines and so forth. How do you find working under that immense pressure? Because obviously you're working for a company like BBC Asia and One Extra. How do you cope with sort of working with so many things at the same time?
These are very tricky questions, Georgio.
And I'm sorry to stand it as well. I'm sorry.
No, I suppose at the moment, obviously a long legacy with One Extra, and I'm currently working with the BBC Asian Network, which is a fantastic team that I'm so proud of. They so like you say, it's busy because we're creating obviously live radio, but also podcasts, DJ mixes, discussion, events, and news for that station, for the British Asian community, and specifically those with sort of South Asian heritage. So, and for me, it's been a wonderful way to sort of grow my knowledge of, additional cultures as well. So I think I learn from them half the time, even though I'm editor, more than they learn from me. But I'd like to think we meet each other in the middle. And yeah, we sort of just challenge one hurdle at a time as a team, and it goes back to what we were saying earlier. When it gets stressful and busy, we have to remind ourselves why we're doing it, and the audience don't see all the stuff behind the scenes. They see the finished, or they hear the finished product, or they see the finished product. And we know the impact that it can have on people in a positive way. So that's what keeps us going. And it's kind of a not weird, but it's a interesting time for radio, because there's such a hunger for authentic sort of discussion, popularity of podcasts, and then you've also got that thirst for music, hence the popularity of streaming sites. And so you imagine those sort of two rooms, and we do stuff for those two rooms, dedicated on the website and everything else. But the live radio is an interesting period for all radio stations because it's a mix of both. And if you get it wrong, you kind of end up not pleasing anybody in a sense, because if the speech and the presenters aren't authentic, then people won't come from the podcast. Like, I just stick my podcast. And if the music isn't really matching the feel and thirst of your audience as well, then they just stay with their streaming sites. But when you get it right, you can absolutely bring everything together. You know, people who want authentic discussion can hear that, but interspersed with music, and people who love music, you know, we're playing the tunes with them, and they're hearing curators still, and, you know, really hot DJ mixes as well. And so my job is to sort of help us get that fine balance and get it right. And radio still plays an important role. And I think at the moment, especially because it's weird times, people have been working from home and stuff, and they want to hear some tunes to get them through the day. But your streaming site can feel a bit lonely at times. You're just going through your playlist, but actually there's absolutely been a need for people to feel connected. And it's weird because you've got all these new apps now where you can, you know, network sharing, where you can watch the same film at the same time. But weirdly, radio has been doing that for nearly 100 years, whereby you just play a record and everyone's listening to it at the same time. And that's quite a powerful thing still, you know, and I think it's proving it over the last few months.
100%, because I actually wanted to get into how you find new music yourself. So with radio and streaming sites, is that for you what you find the best way to find new music?
Combination, yeah. I love radio still, and I'm not just saying because I'm biased. I love the fact that someone's taken time. I was speaking to Bobby Friction the other day, you know, and his job is 6 days a week, just purely going through new music and actually having that filter, then having someone curate those tracks in order for you to hear them and enjoy them. I think it's still really special, and hear their story. Only because I get dizzy with there's so much music out there, and absolutely it's the best time to be alive for music. It's just incredible. You know, you've got literally the whole world's history of music on your phone. And if you'd have told me that 20 years ago, I'd be like, what? And I mean, I'm old, Georgio, so I remember the days when, I mean, for over a decade, my Saturday was just record shopping. I'd go to Uptown Records, Central London, to buy a vinyl, and then go down to Red Records in Brixton, then up to Dub Bender and Clapham Junction for the reggae, praying that they had the record that I wanted, because if they didn't, I knew I had to go then to Dub Bender in West London to go and get it in Shepherd's Bush. And that was my Saturday. And I'd get home probably with about 15 tunes and carry bags of vinyl and then enjoy them on the Saturday night. And now, this is how spoiled I am. Now, I get annoyed if I find an album not on one of my streaming sites. So the fact that Aaliyah's not on Spotify, her album, and what's the other one? Oh, Diamond D, like old school album. But for some reason, I don't know if it's a licensing thing, it's not on Spotify. So that is how spoiled I am. I've got all these music, and now I've gone from sort of searching for records on a Saturday to now searching for gaps, and then getting annoyed when I find them. So bad.
Look, I feel exactly the same way, because I started off with, talk about going old school, I used to start off with a Walkman, a tape player and a Walkman.
I thought I was the old one here.
No, I'm old too. I remember I used to like pray that the song that I wanted to listen back to came on the radio, and I quickly push record onto my tape player, and then wait for it to call. I wait for a few minutes, okay, and I listen to it back, and then cut off just before the DJ started talking again, and then listen to it, rinse it, repeat it, play it again, do it that way. And I remember then from there on to CD players, obviously the Walkmans and so forth. And I remember if I wanted to like record onto my CD player, I had to like obviously record the whole album onto it. And then sometimes we forget there was no memory left on it. So it was just cut out halfway through, thinking, oh, damn, I wanted that album so bad. But it's like you said, you've got the whole world at your fingertips now. I mean, like with things like Spotify to Google Podcasts, Amazon Music, YouTube, obviously, as well. And I completely agree with you. Like, I think this is the best time for music now, because there's such a immense sort of wealth of music out there that anyone can listen to at any time now. You can walk down the road, and like I'm like you, where if you said this 20 years ago that we could have the whole world's music in the palm of your hand, I thought you were crazy. But now I can't walk down the road without putting music on, whether it's the newest album or a soundtrack for something or a podcast or something. It's just you've got the whole world of music in your hands now. I think it's incredible.
Yeah, no, it's really exciting, and I do love the algorithms. You know, you wake up in the morning and there's an email saying, "Hi, Rob, we think you like this," and I'm like, "What do you do?" And, it's awesome, but at the same time, I don't want to always just trust the algorithms. That's probably the cynical side of me. It's like I still want to try and delve and search, and that's why I still like to hear radio as well. And I love DJ mixes. I love the vibe.
I do.
Up and so I listen to, you know, because I'm VPN, the US stations, obviously Hot 97 Power, but obviously a lot of local stations as well. We've got a good one here, Croydon, as well. So I try to listen to a lot of community radio too.
Can't exactly say. I love those DJ mixes where they go from one tune to the next, thinking, how the hell did they do that? That sounds incredible. I wouldn't have thought to go from one track to the next. Yeah, but talk about going back to what we said kind of earlier in terms of this era now, and into what you just said as well about what you mentioned beforehand about this era being the kind of golden era, you feel, of R&B music, especially in the female industry.
Yeah, I mean, golden always makes it sound old, so I think probably there's something for us to judge maybe in years to come, but it's absolutely, I feel, a very, very special time for R&B, whether it's progressive R&B, futuristic R&B, or however you want to define it, but specifically from female artists at the moment. Janae Oku, Kalani, Janelle Monáe, her, Ari Lennox, Elo that we spoke about, Summer Walker, Danny Lay. I mean, they normally in any genre you kind of have your five big guns, and you've got tier two, but those people still doing their thing, but there's always five leading the way. I mean, I'm scrolling through my Spotify now, but I'll probably rinse off 30 names for you. Asian, Snow Aguilera, like the level of the caliber of work they're putting out, I think is phenomenal. And these aren't just sort of poppy R&B records. Some of these artists are making real strong bodies of work, albums that you can play and not have to skip, which is often a lost art at the moment. And going back to what we were talking about earlier about the love of musicianship, and she plays 6 instruments. Summer Walker can just pick up a guitar effortlessly, and I think because a younger generation, they're learning these instruments quicker and adding it to their repertoire. And I think, this is a very special moment. And we were talking briefly earlier about sort of the golden age thing. The thing about those things is you don't realize you're in it when you're in it. So when I'm going to Biggie concerts and Nas concerts, and I'm just living life, it's just what it is. That's what we're into.
Yeah.
It's only 20 years later because, oh my God, that period. And so I hope that people just take a moment, because there's so much music out there and everything else, just take a moment to really appreciate what's happening at the moment. And I think a lot of these artists are mid-flight and only just getting started. They're getting better. And I think we could look at possibly I'd go back to 2000. I could probably get my dates wrong here. 2015, 2016, where sort of Janelle Monáe and Solange's album as well was quite a pivotal album, because that was quite really an album of authenticity in terms of not going sort of the mainstream R&B format. And I think that was probably quite inspiring to a lot of artists. So I think that 10-year period from 2016 to 2025, I would hope, minimum, there's going to be a decade's worth of us. We will look back and say that was the birth of some superstars, because we've got
100%, because there's such an immense wealth of huge talent out there. Like every name you just mentioned, there's Summer Walker to even us, the UK artists like you said, LMA, Ray, to loads of other people as well who are smashing it now. And like I said,
and the UK, it's a proud time to be. They've always said about the UK explosion, all this, but it's really happening now. The talent is phenomenal.
It really is. And adding to what you said about people like Summer Walker who plays 6 instruments, how crucial do you think it is in today's era where artists should play an instrument? Because I know a lot of people, a lot of the time, as good as they can be, a lot of the time they might not play an instrument. And I remember you mentioning about there's a love for wanting to learn an instrument now. How
Yeah.
crucial do you think it is for today's kind of artists to add playing an instrument or instrument to their caliber now?
I think it's important. It's her that plays six instrument.
Oh, sorry, her, sorry.
Summer Walker May. I just haven't seen her do it. I mean,
Yeah.
it's but the no, look, it's an extra bow to your weaponry, and I think I think people can learn faster these days, and I think it goes hand in hand. Whether or not you can pick up the instrument yourself, I think having a knowledge of how to use those in a studio environment and actually get the best out of it, especially when you're working with musicians in your productions. So I think just having a general knowledge of it is really important. And then if you can elevate to actually learning and playing yourself, then even better. I mean, I know Stormzy was talking about picking up the guitar last year, wasn't he?
I remember, yeah.
So, 3 years time on stage with some riffs, you know.
Yeah.
Well, he's got best mate's not bad on the guitar.
Yeah.
So he's good. So there you go.
Yeah, you keep going. What track was it? We go this year. I learned to play the guitar. What track was it again? You actually mentioned it, didn't he?
So, and I don't think he's joking. He's probably, you know, I'm probably behind. There's probably YouTube videos of him playing it already. But no, I think that is useful. And again, going back to those artists, I think what I'm seeing is a real control from them in terms of their sound and what they're doing, and a real and I don't. These aren't the sort of artists that I see sort of compromising. I think they know what they do, and they all have their own unique lanes as well. Like Ari Lennox, you know, just that Dreamville vibe and that soulful voice that she's got, and Kalani and Janae, again, their own sonic sounds, very regional as well. So when you listen to Kalani and Janae, it takes you to LA. Like there's an LA feel to it, and it reminds me, if you compare it to the 90s, when you had the down south and obviously the east and west and stuff, but actually they really feel authentic from the areas that they're coming from, if that makes sense. And obviously, prime example of that. You know, there's definitely a UK swag to a lot of that stuff, you know, which is great.
I definitely love that because, like I said earlier about the UK explosion now, and I realised as well that a lot of US artists, I've noticed anyway, that US artists are trying to finally copy the kind of UK sound now as well. I realised finally, because obviously, as we've all known, that the UK has tried to copy the US sound. And I realized that the kind of UK has finally kind of caught up to the US in terms of artistry, to the sound, to the overall kind of package.
Yeah, I mean, and I hate putting things in categories, like a US sound and a UK sound. I think for years the UK has always been a melting pot of different sounds. You know, I saw there's documentaries about the link between sort of the dancehall energy with the grime. And we've still got very strong history of, you know, classic soul R&B artists as well. But I think UK now is always been quite experimental with fusing sounds together. Anyway, I think for a while the US formula became a little bit stagnant, and I think partly was due to people just still relying on radio airplay and sort of the formula of what makes a good daytime record. I think now with the whole social media and the world's a smaller place, and people they don't necessarily, I'm saying this as a radio station editor, they don't need radio station airplay to succeed. I think, I mean, I'm using an obvious rapper here, but like a J. Cole, early days, he was, you know, he talks about it, the pressure of kind of, he's got his authentic album that he's proud of, but he knew he was under pressure to make a couple of radio hits, you know, and he's in that space now where he doesn't have to worry about that. He can just put stuff out, all of that stuff. And obviously that's a luxury when you get to a certain level. But I think people are seeing now, I'm going back to the artists I mentioned earlier, they're seeing that they can just be themselves and actually go straight to consumer, you know, and build a fan base. You better having a smaller fan base and be absolutely proud of your artistic work than having a couple of records on your album that make you wince, that you know, that one. or and yeah, and the collaborations you can kind of, I don't know, I can always smell a collaboration which it just, okay, we've got this person on this label, we're going to plop them and give them 16 bars on that track, and versus an authentic kind of collaboration of sound where they spent a bit of time together or even remotely, but putting something together, and I think the collaborations is important. Yeah, I see US, UK, Jamaica, any other countries sort of sitting side by side and hopefully making even new sounds for the future.
Definitely. I think, like you just said, like collaboration, I feel is so key to broadening everyone's horizons to different sounds as well. And you can move on to the future because every sort of country and genre has like obviously has their own unique sound. And if you're comfortable enough to work with other people and broaden your horizons, I think it's a win-win for everyone.
Yeah, 100%, 100%. What are you listening to at the moment?
You know what? I love my soundtracks. So I just obsess with the soundtracks. I love everything. But at the moment, I still go back to kind of old school stuff, really, from like the Ryan Leslie's to Neo's original stuff to that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
But at the moment, I'm not. Sometimes I'm obsessed with the one or two tracks that come out. I remember, I was obsessing over, like, I think about a year or so ago now. For, like an example, I was obsessing over the track "Friends" by Ray, the Colin J remix of that.
Oh
And,
yeah.
yeah. And talking about radio, I remember I was driving at the time, listening to One Extra at the time actually, and they played that, and I had to pull over. I like, what the hell is that? She Shazammed it, and then ever since then, I love it. I've been obsessed with it. But that's what I love
Amazing.
about the radio because, like you said, with the algorithms of YouTube and iTunes and so forth and Spotify, you might not always agree with what they show you, but I realize that with radio, they know what's going to work. And I realized that
get it wrong sometimes, I'm sure,
no,
but we try to do it for our stations. We try to do it for authentic place, and I think the history of recent UK music, I like to think we played a role in giving people platforms and stuff. So that's important.
Yeah, I love obviously LMA stuff. I love Summer Walker stuff as well. So I would kind of mix and match between R&B, a lot of R&B, because that is for me one of my favorite genres is R&B. And for someone like myself, who's also obviously a full-time teacher and a composer and a musician, I feel like it's very beneficial that you listen to it as much as possible and try and learn from everyone. Because I feel like if you're kind of cancelling out particular genres, you might not always like them, but I feel like if you're opening horizons to different genres, you have a more appreciative ear for them, if that makes sense. Yeah, so I just listen to literally everything, whether it's got, in fact, I'm listening to an artist called Happy at the moment.
Okay.
I love it. And he does like kind of Afrobeats reggaeton stuff, which I absolutely love. So he bring that sort of good vibe to his music, which I love. Angel, I love as well at the moment. I know he brought out a remix with French Montana and who else with it? Of one of his kind of slightly older tunes called Blessings, which you probably know already.
Yeah.
Brought out a remix with that with French Montana and someone else who I've obsessed with as well. But literally, like I said, I just listen to whatever my mood is that day. I just try to focus on that kind of music and make me feel good that day.
Yeah. Well, look, man, no rules. Just love what you love, and I think there's so much good music out there, and I think the more you can be exposed to, the better. I've got a friend because I know there's certain, like, if I'm going back in the day now, there's also like Led Zeppelin albums that I slept on, like completely different world to what I'm into. But I mean, listening to a couple of those albums, and obviously with the algorithms, it takes you down that path, and you're exposed to a whole heap of new stuff, and it's cool. Just expose yourself to as much as possible.
Yeah. How about yourself though? Adding to what I kind of Led Zeppelin and stuff. What else are you kind of into at the moment?
What, musically?
Yeah.
You put me on the spot now.
I'm sorry.
Kind of everything. If I'm really honest, probably like you, because it's been a bit of a weird time, you kind of go to your home comforts.
Mm-hmm.
And so for me, that is obviously music. So I'll be just playing. I mean, I'm just looking at what I played last night. Old Mos Def, Black Star albums.
Amazing albums.
Yeah, the 90s R&B there. And that took me into like old Tribe Called Quest stuff.
Oh.
So I wasn't a 90s hip hop thing last night, but every night is different in this household, and yeah, you know,
I love it.
We have a lot of fun with it.
Brilliant. That's fantastic. But, you know, before we go, though, is there anything you want to give a shout out to or promote before we go?
Yeah. Everyone knows that I'm not on social media. You've done very well, Georgio, to unearth me from my bunker. So no, hopefully, you know, giving a few bits of advice that may be useful to people. But the biggest thing is just I love this podcast in terms of you documenting the journey of the Hip Hop Orchestra, and it's been a privilege to play a very small role in or being part of that journey with you. So just best of luck to you. I think you exemplify how to navigate this industry, and you bring people together, and you're one of the nicest people I know in this industry.
Thank you so much.
And your work ethic as well. And so people have got a lot to learn from you.
Thank you.
Don't change that, and keep doing what you're doing, and best of luck to you and the team.
Honestly, thank you so much, brother, to hear that from you as well. Like, because you think you've played a small role in my life, but honestly, I've mentioned you to everyone that I've, like my family, to my friends, to say, look, this guy has honestly helped me in my life. No, I have, because I know that I know what this industry is like. You get a lot of people that close doors on you, but you've always been there for me. So I can't thank you enough for what you've done for me. So, and even doing this on a Sunday as well, doing my podcast, to give me great advice. And
got to help people out, and that's what it's about. Be supportive, and hopefully that's reciprocated. And you know, today's intern is tomorrow's CEO. The industry is quite important. Your reputation is important of how you are, regardless of your craft. It's how you are as a person. And so keep doing what you're doing.
Thank you. You too.
All right.
And on that, now I'm going to end on a fantastic note. At the end of Hip Hop Orchestra, thank you so much, brother, for doing that. And peace.
Yeah,
peace, brother. Take it.